Madam Chair, I move that Section 38 pass, and this would move THC from Schedule 1. I think that would move it, most likely it would end up in Schedule 2 alongside of cocaine as a chemical that has medicinal use, albeit a chemical that is highly addictive. It merits research and thought, but THC does not belong in Schedule 1 because Schedule 1 drugs have no known medicinal use, and clearly Minnesota has already decided that issue when the medical cannabis program was initiated, and we're now up to 15 different diagnoses for which medical marijuana can be utilized, and we have 15,000 patients that are qualified for it.
Thank you. Is there other kind
Madam
of
Chair.
discussion?
Madam Chair, thank you. And I absolutely agree with Senator Jensen on this one. We should be moving it from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2. There's a number of reasons. He pointed those out. I believe we'd also be able to do additional research on this language or on this this product in the event it was a Schedule 2. So it makes perfect sense to do this, and I would support the motion to move it or to adopt Section 38.
All right, Senator Benson.
And Madam Chair, I have heard concerns from some that moving from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2 renews their concern that the medical cannabis program is a path to legalization, and so I'd request opposition to this motion.
All right, Representative Halverson and then Senator Abler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to speak in favor of the motion, specifically because I think one of the issues that we deal with regard to cannabis is that there's a lot that we don't know and we don't understand. And without the ability to study it and do really high quality research, which we do a lot of in Minnesota, we don't have the ability to make really sound decisions about our medical cannabis future in Minnesota and how we can help people. And I think that hearing from so many people who are really struggling with illness and pain and all kinds of issues that are, who are looking for relief from this particular program, I think they really need us to put us on a path to research and understand it. And I don't think Schedule 2 gets us any closer to legalization, particularly if, as Senator Jensen said, this is the same place that cocaine is classified. Clearly, Schedule 2 drugs have the ability to be regulated, heavily regulated, and even outlawed. So to me, Schedule 2 is not a path to legalization.
Senator Abler.
Well, thank you. And Madam Chair, this is, I've came into this session thinking differently than I think today about this topic. And I have been, had more conversations than I thought possible on this topic. And I came in, as Representative Halverson said, with great concerns about what the program could be, and I'm so frankly nervous about the leaf or the little plant part, but I'm learning about that. And I think a lot of us are learning about that. And I was provoked by Dr. Weiberg about how the legislative we have to make this change the schedule. And but there's I think in this bill there's a lot of really productive things to help the program move forward. And I think there's a consensus about those points. I think as we move into this discussion, the consensus is less. And we represent each other. We also represent people who are hoping we work on things. And I can see a lot of evolution, if that's the word, in awareness amongst my colleagues. But there's still a fair amount of great concern about this section. Having had the privilege of sitting through a number of hearings about this now, my concern is much less. But there's a time for every vote, and I think this section is not for today. And so maybe as individuals get to chat with their various legislators and help them understand the merits and, gee, can't we get this done? I believe the feds have really messed us up by not acting in a more productive way and making some of our people likely to be, criminals by just, you can't go to a school and give your child some oil and like, holy cow. So having come to where I've come, I'm much more comfortable with this section than I was 3 months ago. But still, I don't know that this is the day for it. And this bill has to pass. And there's so many things in this bill that are so important, and I just would hate to disrupt that by this. And so I don't think I'll be supporting this section today. So thank you.
Representative Hamilton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And excuse me, to my friends on the other side, I just learned something today out in the parking lot. As you know, I've been sharing publicly that I have now been enrolled or getting enrolled into the program. I learned today that because it's a Schedule I here in Minnesota, I have just forfeited all my Second Amendment rights. I've lost all my rights. I'm a hunter. I've had gone through the classes for my permit to carry, and because I'm now in this medicinal program, cannabis program, I'm foregoing all my Second Amendment rights. And when I learned that in the parking lot this morning, you can about imagine I came unglued and I zipped emails to staff, and I even called the Attorney General. Everybody's scrambling to try to find answers. And I did receive some information stating that this is in fact true. I cannot be, I'm begging that we would change this from Schedule I to Schedule II for so many reasons. But when I found out that I am foregoing my Second Amendment rights because I am legally obtaining a doctor-prescribed medication, I have to forego my Second Amendment rights. This is wrong. It's absolutely wrong. So I was going to say just short of groveling, I think that's to the point where I'm at. This is real. It's absolutely real. And we have the ability here on this committee to right this wrong. And I understand the concerns about going with full legalization, and I'll put on record that I do not support full legalization. I do not support that. And I'll go back to say that when the state was first looking at legalizing medicinal cannabis, I was a no vote. I was a strong no vote, and I think that I shared that with you. But like Senator Abler said, through baby steps, and once I learned a little bit more each time, I was able to support this program as long as we had the processes and protocols put in place, which I believe we do through the department, to make sure that this is narrow in scope. And, I'm a supporter now to open up to the flower and the leaf, but what I'm saying is if we could focus on this one first, I'm even willing to back off on some of these other things in order to allow whatever, public opinion or the science or whatever to catch up. But this is real, this one here, and it's impacting us. It's impacting me in a very negative way. Like I said, I'm giving up. I was told, and I didn't realize this before, but I'm giving up my Second Amendment rights, or I'm not giving them up. I've lost them. So I would ask that please reconsider and let's adopt the House language.
Senator Benson?
Madam Chair, I would ask Senator Jensen to withdraw this motion at this time. I would like to talk to our legal counsel to see what happens at Schedule 2. I believe you when you say Schedule 1. I don't know enough to know what happens if we move this to Schedule 2, and I request the opportunity to look into that. And to the people who've raised the concerns about the path to legalization, I don't know if this is new information to them, and so as I hear, I don't want people who are on medical cannabis to not be able to go hunting So because this is new information to me, I know we wanted to wrap up the cannabis articles tonight and go through this, but I would appreciate the opportunity to not review the scheduling tonight and to talk with the folks who've raised this concern and see if that was their intent.
Senator Abler.
Well, thanks. I was actually going to make the same request. I just heard this committee probably differs on the Second Amendment, I would just randomly guess, but there's probably some broad perspectives here.
Maybe not on this, though.
That'd be a fair. But it is an important right by the Constitution, which is important to us, independent of other opinions we might hold and beliefs. But this to me is significant, and I think that I don't like sitting in this chair today, and we can vote on it in a couple days if we have to or whenever, but I think that I would like a chance to share that news with some of my colleagues that I feel like I'm representing tonight. Thank you.
Representative Halverson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm certainly an advocate for people getting as much information as possible before we make decisions. That's why I supported the amendment to begin with. But I did want to respond to Senator Abler and the thought that the people on this committee differ on the Second Amendment. And I would say that my reaction when Representative Hamilton told me about his dilemma today was that I think that what happened to him was wrong, and I think that we don't do ourselves any favor when we feed into notions about people who are using prescribed medications and what that means for their ability to function and live their lives. I don't want to feed into any of those stereotypes. So we agree on this situation. So I don't want us stereotyping each other.
Thank you, Representative Halverson. Senator Marty.
Madam Chair, since we're all making little philosophical statements about this issue, I actually carried medical marijuana bills about 25 years ago and have always supported it, and I've never signed on to a legalization bill. I actually would support it, but I have some real concerns because it can be marketed and promoted and so on. But having said that, I do think it's appropriate if we take a few more days to think about this one, but Schedule 1 is not an accurate terminology for this anyway, and I don't see this as, I understand some saying it's a slippery slope and one thing leads to another, but I think this is a separate decision and it has a lot of consequences that people don't always think of, such as the one Representative Hamilton mentioned, but also the lack of ability to do research and so on. Again, because it is misclassified as Schedule 1 because it does have medicinal purposes that we as a state have already decided. So anyway, I just hope we think about it in the next couple of days.
Madam Chair.
Senator Jensen.
Madam Chair, before I request an official action, I would just like to remind all of us that Schedule 1 drugs are illegal because they have high abuse potential, no medical use, and severe safety concerns. The drug that I most often look at when I see the schedule, when I choose my DEA classification, is on Schedule 1, I always see heroin, peyote, mescaline. But when I look at Schedule 2, I see fentanyl, oxycodone, hydrocodone, Dilaudid. I see cocaine. Those are Schedule 2 drugs. THC was scheduled in Schedule 1 in the early 1970s through the I think it was the 1970 Controlled Substances Act. And it was in part put on that because we didn't know what to do, and it was supposed to be temporary. And temporary got pushed and the can got kicked down the road, and here we are. So as we do consider this the next 24 to 48 hours, Schedule 1 drugs are illegal because they have high abuse potential and no medical use. And if we have 15,000 people in Minnesota that are utilizing THC for medical reasons, aren't we just being absolutely illogical? And having said that, Madam Chair, I'd like to withdraw my motion regarding Section 38.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Senator Dr. Jensen. And so even though you've withdrawn it, I guess I would like to say I appreciate that. I think, and that's fine, members need to take some time, maybe some minds can be changed over this particular issue, but I appreciate you bringing it back to the fact that having a drug scheduled in a particular place means something. And in this case, this, I think in the view of many, this one is simply put in the wrong place, and apparently it's having some additional unintended consequences, or maybe they're intended consequences, but consequences that many of us would not really want to accept. And whether, I guess the question is, if it gets moved to Schedule 2, does that change this factor? And I don't know if we know that. Maybe you do know that, Representative Hamilton, do you?
Madam Chair, I'm trying to get additional answers as
Okay.
well.
All right, Representative Halverson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do think it's important that we, revisit it, and I appreciate everybody's commitment to, learn more and revisit it. But, and would be happy if any physicians in the room want to comment, but I kind of liken this to the fact that, you hear cocaine is on this list. When you think about the family of drugs that are related to cocaine, it's things that we use a lot, in fact, even over the counter, like lidocaine and novocaine, and drugs that all of us have been exposed to. And so I think that it's important to know that, for decades we've been able to separate out, legal and illegal uses of those drugs without problem. I think the medical community has got this figured out. So that's all I wanted to say. And I think that's illustrative, that things that we can even use over the counter are derivatives of cocaine. So we can certainly find ways to make sure that people can get the medicinal benefit of cannabis.
Madam Chair,
Senator Jensen.
if I could be so bold, I would recommend that sections 39 through 43 be passed over and you move on to the rest of your agenda, since those in some way or another have a relationship to what we do on section 38.
Okay, certainly, Senator, those are kind of all related.